They say evil doesn't always announce itself with a snarl or a weapon. Sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it wears eyeliner, ripped jeans, and the restless grin of a 19-year-old girl who believes the world owes her something and is willing to carve it out of someone else's flesh to get it. This is the story of Christa Pike, not just a killer, but a performer, a girl who turned murder into ritual, pain into art, and a human life into a trophy she could slip into her coat pocket and carry with her like a secret she was proud of. This isn't fiction. This happened. And if you think you've heard dark before, you haven't heard Christa Pike. It was January 1995, Knoxville, Tennessee. Cold, quiet, the kind of winter night where breath hangs in the air and footsteps crunch on frozen gravel like broken glass. Colleen Slemmer, 19, bright-eyed and soft-spoken, had no reason to fear the girl walking beside her. Christa Pike, same age, same college, same dormitory hallway. They weren't friends, not really, but Christa had decided they were rivals. Not over grades, not over popularity, over a boy who didn't even want her. Tadarrell Shipp, 17, quiet, impressionable, was Christa's boyfriend, or at least he played the part. And in Christa's fevered mind, Colleen was trying to steal him. It didn't matter that Colleen had shown zero interest. It didn't matter that Tadarrell himself later admitted Colleen barely knew he existed. None of that mattered. Because in Christa's world, jealousy didn't need evidence. It only needed an enemy. So she made a plan. Not a crime of passion, not a heat-of-the-moment mistake. A plan. Calculated. Cold. She recruited Tadarrell, not as a lover but as a weapon, and she brought along Shadala Peterson, 18, quiet, obedient, to stand watch like a sentinel while the ritual unfolded. She told Colleen she wanted to talk. Just girl talk. Away from the dorm. Out in the woods near the old rock quarry. "Let's clear the air," she probably said. Maybe she even smiled. Colleen, trusting, gentle, walked right into the trap. What happened next wasn't just murder, it was theater. They waited until they were alone, until no one could hear. Then Christa struck. Not with a knife at first, not with a gun, with words. She screamed at Colleen, accused her, humiliated her, and when Colleen tried to leave, when she turned to walk away, Christa grabbed her, slammed her to the ground. And then, the beating began. Tadarrell swung a chunk of asphalt, heavy, jagged, pulled from the roadside, and cracked it against Colleen's skull. Again and again. Colleen screamed, begged, tried to crawl away. Christa grabbed a meat cleaver, yes, a meat cleaver, and slashed at her body. Deep, ragged cuts across her arms, her legs, her stomach. Colleen was still alive, still breathing, still pleading. And that's when Christa decided to make it holy. She took the cleaver, slick with blood now, and carved into Colleen's chest. Not randomly, not frantically, deliberately, slowly. She carved a symbol, an inverted pentagram, a circle with a 5-pointed star flipped upside down. The goat's head of Satan, a signature, a brand, a message to the world. This was not an accident. This was me. And I meant every cut. Colleen was still alive when Christa finished, still gasping, still staring up at the winter sky with eyes that couldn't understand why this was happening. And then, as if the carving wasn't enough, Christa reached into the shattered cavity of Colleen's skull and pulled out a piece of bone, a jagged, thumb-sized fragment. She wrapped it in a napkin, tucked it into her coat pocket, a trophy, a keepsake, proof that she had won. They left her there, broken, bleeding, alone, and walked back to campus like nothing had happened, like they just finished a late-night study session, like they hadn't just erased a human soul. The next morning, hikers found Colleen's body. Police swarmed the scene. At first, they thought it was a random attack, a drifter, a psycho. But then they found the Rolex watch on her wrist, still ticking, still showing the date, January 22nd, and the tattoo on the back of her hand. A tiny maple leaf, almost hidden. Canadian. That's what led them to Ronald Platt. No, wait, that's another story. This one? This one led them to the University of Tennessee, to the dormitory, to Christa Pike. When they questioned her, she didn't break down. She didn't panic. She bragged. I knew exactly what I was doing, she told them, calm, clear-eyed. I was taking things out on her that happened to me years ago. She talked about her abusive childhood like it was a script she'd rehearsed, like it was an excuse she'd polished until it gleamed. But the truth? The truth was simpler. She was jealous, she was cruel, and she liked the power. At trial, the courtroom wept, not for Christa, for Colleen, for the parents who would never hear their daughters laugh again, for the friends who would never share another coffee, another secret, another late-night walk under the stars. The judge, and a man who'd spent 22 years on the bench without shedding a tear, broke down as he sentenced her. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, he said, voice trembling. It is therefore ordered that you shall be put to death, Christa cried then. Not for Colleen, not for the horror she'd unleashed. She cried because they were taking her spotlight away. Can I please hold my mom before I go? She begged. I love you. I love you. I love you, as if love could wash the blood off her hands. Tadaro got life. Shadala, 6 years probation. A slap on the wrist for standing by while a girl was turned into an altar. And Christa, she's still on death row, more than 25 years later, filing appeals, giving interviews, writing letters, turning her infamy into a brand. She's become a macabre celebrity, the pentagram killer, the skull trophy girl, the teenage Satanist who smiled in court. Colleen's family still waits for closure. But Christa, she doesn't want closure. She wants attention. She wants you to remember her name. And she will. Because in her mind, this wasn't murder. It was performance art. And the encore? It's still playing. If stories like this pull you in, if you're drawn to the shadows where jealousy curdles into ritual and youth hides pure, unflinching evil, then you're exactly where you're meant to be. This is the kind of tale we live for, true, twisted, and told without mercy. Don't forget to subscribe, because next time, the story gets darker, and trust me, you won't want to miss it.